Wow, Japanese people really hate Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I didn't know their hate for this game went so far as to creating a petition to actually ban this game from its release, at least in Japan. And I think this is the interesting thing that we're seeing with the Japanese people's response to this game coming from a Western studio that is mostly focused on doing cultural pieces. Assassin's Creed franchise and Ubisoft actually has a historic past of sticking to the cultural aspects of every society that they delve into. It's just with Japan, they choose not to do that by actually focusing on an African character and their pursuits within this land, within medieval Japan. Of course, no one should be batting an eye about the African character in general because this is a fantasy, but I think with Assassin's Creed, we usually have cultural characters to focus on. And of course, we do have a female shinobi that is working with him, but I think the dichotomy of them trying to look for some diversity within this space and making it a big part of the game reflects back of what we're seeing in the video gaming industry today, where everything is done for the sake of diversity rather than the quality of gameplay. And I think this is the backlash that we're seeing right now from a fan base that is tired of seeing things done for political reasons rather than gameplay purposes. And I think this is the exact thing with Yasuke being included into this game, because usually we would be excited to see a game with this type of unique character, but the people that are actually working on the game are the type of people that don't make interesting games. I'm talking about the advisors that they brought in, and of course the writers as well. These people are political activists that have no skills in making quality stories, and what we see from these sort of talented people is a degradation in actual functioning storytelling. And I think we see this all throughout the video gaming industry because of companies like Sweet Baby Inc. that have heavy influence in the industry itself, where it's pointing out different aspects where you have to focus on politically and socially in order to be recommended and actually praised by media within the trades for gaming journals. And I think this is something we heard about with Black Myth Wukong, where it was extorted by this consultancy firm Sweet Baby Inc., where they were asked to pay $7 million or be attacked by games journalists like IGN, like The Gamer, like GameSpot, with articles degrading their product. And I think this is a situation that we're seeing within the industry, where a lot of these companies are getting into these services of consultancy firms that are extorting them to some extent. But I think with Ubisoft, they're working together because the people within the development process are kind of cohorts of these consultancy firms. And I think the result is usually poorly constructed games that lead to the destruction of the entire development staff. We see this with Volition and Saints Row. We saw this with Luminous and Forspoken and a multitude of other studios. Just Cause 4 studio went down, along with a bunch of other studios that have worked with Sweet Baby Inc. And we just see this happening with Rocksteady and Kill the Justice League, as that is the biggest failure for them, and they were a client of Sweet Baby Inc. So I think seeing these companies work together with his staff and them producing content like this, of course you're going to be afraid when the writer of Assassin's Creed Shadow is just a freshman graduate from university that has no experience except writing for terrible games. You're going to be hesitant to see them actually work on a project that you're interested in. I think when you're bringing in consultants that are mostly focused on controversial gender preferences in the past, and that's your overall cultural reference for Japan, it's in the perspective of LGBTQ romance of the past in medieval Japan, yeah, people are not going to have high expectations for the game. And I think the backlash from Japan is justified, especially with a lot of the failures in overall architectural design and understanding of ancient Japan by mixing up architecture from ancient China with ancient Japan. And people were complaining about this all throughout the Japanese social media, where they're saying they're making parts of Japan look like China. That is just disrespectful to the culture of Japan. And I think that is disrespectful to the culture of China too, where you're just mixing up these cultures because you have no interest in the culture. You're there for your own personal politics, and it's clear when you see them make these type of big mistakes, especially after Ghost of Tsushima didn't make these mistakes and was perfectly understanding and respectful of Japanese culture. And I think that's what we see playing out within the industry nowadays, where we have these people developing the games that have no interest in the culture that they're working with or focusing on. And I think that's the thing that is playing out in the Japanese people's response is ideal, where they are downvoting every single trailer video for this game, and they're leaving their comments deriding the lack of cultural respect and overall observance of the Japanese culture within this game. You can see the comments just come out just bashing the character design, the architectural design, the mixed seasons of the fruits and plants they have out there. It's just someone didn't work on the game with love, and it's apparent. And I think that's the thing that is driving the negativity of this game, where of course some people are just angry that they're not really following the pattern of Assassin's Creed game where they're steeped in the culture. Yeah, that's one thing a gamer could be angry about, but it's not as egregious as disrespecting that culture outrightly. And it seems like it's doing both things. It's not respecting the gamer themselves, and it's not respecting the culture they're trying to preserve. And of course, when gamers complain about this, they're called racist bigots. And of course, when Japanese complain about this, they're called fake racist bigots that are pretending to be Japanese. And I think this is a narcissistic conceit that they have, that if you are against them, you can't possibly be Japanese. You're faking your comments. You're not real. We're right. We're the cultural superior ones, and you must accept our perspective. And that seems to be the case with everyone that's working on this game, where they don't care about the comments from the Japanese people. They are ignoring these comments, and they're just going to call you everything in the book to discredit you because they don't want to face the reality of making a terrible game that they're making. And I think that is what we're seeing at Ubisoft, and Ubisoft is consistently doing this with a lot of games that they're working on. And I think this is no surprise to anyone that has been playing Ubisoft games for the past few years. It's been inundated with these cultural, political aspects at the forefront of all their games. And I think it's no surprise that Ubisoft is going to kick off this year with another controversial failure that may fall at their feet. But you tell me what you think about the situation. Do you think Assassin's Creed Shadows will ultimately be the biggest failure for Ubisoft? I think if it does fail, they're going to have to restructure and rethink things through and how they're handling these development of these games, because they're hiring people that really don't care about games, that don't understand even how to write anything with a story structure. I think we see this with a lot of the writers that are coming out of Hollywood right now. They have no experience, have no idea of how to match the creative process in such a way where it's engaging to an audience that is not in their own bubble of political thoughts and morals. And I think this is the thing that we're seeing reflected back in the video game industry. We're seeing the same terrible writers cycle their way into video games after failing within Hollywood. And I think that's the thing that we're going to see with Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed Shadow, and them petitioning to actually cancel and shutter this overall production. Of course, that's not going to happen. It's still going to go on. Game's not going to be canceled, but I think it's just a gesture for the Japanese people to show how against this they are. And I think that is a perfect reflection of what gamers feel about the current video gaming industry, where it's trying to make games disrespectful to the gamer and more in line with their personal politics, and no one really wants to see that. And I think this petition is a reflection of that. But what do you think about the petition? What do you think is going to happen with Assassin's Creed Shadows? I think it just looks like a lame game myself, and I think when you're trying to pander this hard, it just looks lame to me, especially with the character Yasuke. He looks like George Floyd too, and I know they made the changes in the game when George Floyd happened. That just seems extremely corny to me, especially with the type of characters that we're talking about. And I think that's the situation, at least for me, but a lot of people may see it differently. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd like to hear your thoughts about the situation. Tell me what you think is going to happen with this game. I think it's going to be a failure, but you leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Like, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.